Hello and welcome to So Many Books. I'm your host, Toni Andrews, and today's guest is Marie Bostwick, USA Today and New York Times bestselling author of uplifting historical and contemporary fiction. Welcome, Marie.
Glad to be here, Toni.
I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I wanted to talk to you. You know, I first became aware of you because I was at a writers' conference. I think it was probably RWA, the Romance Writers of America National Conference in Atlanta.
Okay.
And you know, you get some free books sometimes if you're a very good girl. And I
yes.
believe I got a copy of Fields of Gold.
Okay,
and
good.
that's when I first became aware of you.
Oh,
because you know, you get this stack of books to take home, and you can't possibly you can't even keep them all.
Yeah.
Never mind read them all. And you know, there was something about yours, I didn't know anything about it, and I kept, you know, making stacks to keep and stacks to give away. And I kept putting yours back in the keep stack.
Well, I'm glad you did.
And finally one day I read it and I'm like, hey, this is really good. I really like this. But I wasn't, it was historical fiction.
Yes.
And I guess your first three books were all historical fiction set in World War II, is that correct?
Pretty much. Really, in the Fields of Gold starts in about 1923, but goes through the war. So mostly they are centered on World War II.
That's Fields of Gold is the first one. And then the second one?
River's Edge.
River's Edge, okay. And I haven't read River's Edge.
Okay.
And the third book?
Is On Wings of the Morning.
And that's the one I was really interested in talking about because that has a lot to do with the women's
Air Force service pilots.
The WASPs.
The WASP. Well, actually, they like to be called the WASP.
WASP.
Yeah, not the WASPs.
Okay. Okay.
So they're rather adamant about that, as a matter of fact.
And what got you interested in that?
Well, you know, Fields of Gold involved people who were very interested in aviation, and I really intended it as a standalone. But I got to the end and off it went, and my editor had asked if I would like to write a sequel, and I said, well, no, because she lives happily ever after, and I think we should all be good with that. Let's just let her live happily ever after. So off it went, and then, you know, the book goes away, and you don't see the book again for months and months. So the galleys came back, and after I finished sobbing hysterically because it was my first book and I was very excited, I read the story for the first time in a long time. And the son of the main character's name is Morgan. And I remember thinking, gosh, I wonder what happens to Morgan. Well, but I didn't have a lot of ideas. And so then the book came out and a lot of people started writing me and said, what happens to Morgan? And I still didn't have a lot of ideas. He was a pilot and he was a terrific character, but I didn't think he could carry a book on his own. Well, I read widely and I read about as much nonfiction as I do fiction. And I just pick up whatever makes me happy. I buy the strange books at the bookstore whose covers intrigue me. And I had picked up this book about the WASP. And that was just providential. I knew, because then I had the other character I needed to be with Morgan to really make it the story it could be. Because he needed an extraordinary woman. And the Women's Air Force service pilots, every single one of them, were extraordinary women.
Well, I know my sister is a pilot. And I know that she loves to read stories about women's pilots, and I know that right now she's watching this show, saying, "What was the name of that book?" So I'll put the cover up on the screen so everyone can see it.
Okay, good.
All right, so Sue will know where to get it.
Very good.
And Sue, I'll send you a copy if you're nice, and she'll be very happy to get that.
I tell you what, I'm going to leave you a copy, and you can give it to
excellent.
Sue. How about
Sue,
that?
See that?
Sue, you got a book.
But I wanted to make her think that I had to buy it.
Oh,
okay,
we'll just edit that part out.
Okay. Okay, I read a single thread in the last couple of days, and just over the last few days.
Because I overnighted it to you.
I know, and I got it done. I was like reading this morning as in between other things as I was reading it. But I really enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's got some heavy-duty themes in it, though.
It does.
It really does. But one of the themes, one of the lighter-hearted themes in a single thread is quilting.
Yes.
And on our set today we have a beautiful quilt here, and I want the readers to know, the viewers to know that I did not cheat and ask her what this pattern is, but some different patterns were mentioned in the book, and based on that I'm going to guess, is this the Broken Heart?
That's right. This is the Broken Hearts Mending quilt, and this is actually an original design. It goes along with the book, and I had a friend design this. I am a quilter. I am a I'm a wonderfully average quilter. I'm enthusiastic. I am not wildly talented at it, but I am lucky to have friends who are. So I called up a friend of mine in California who's just insanely good at this and asked her, I would really wanted to have the quilt design to go with it. And I actually, if people get on my website, www.mariebostwick.com, and become what we call a reading friend, which means you'll get occasional email from me about once a quarter when I get around to it forever, they can download this pattern for free. So that was something I just wanted to do for my quilting readers.
That's nice.
Yeah, but now I'll tell you a
nice.
story about this. It was hilarious because my friend Chris Boersma-Smith is so talented. I mean, this is a woman who one time just took it into her head. She'd had a dream about Australia and woke up the next day and decided to make a quilt with the Sydney Opera House in it, and just did. She can do those sorts of things. So it's fascinating to see how really artistic people work, because she did this for me and then she sent me the directions.
If you read a single thread, it makes you want to go out and quilt.
I've had so many people say that.
I've tried quilting, and I want you to know I have no talent for it whatsoever.
You may need to try again.
But I never was a member of a quilting circle. That's really what's so appealing, is this idea that, you know, on every Friday night these women get together and they sit around a table and they're quilting, but that just is what their hands are doing while they're basically having a wonderful time together.
And they're sharing their lives and supporting each other.
And that's what sounded like fun. And I think it's a very New England thing. I mean, I knew they do it all over the country. Your character starts out in Texas and ends up in Connecticut. Now, you're not from Connecticut originally.
Not originally. I'm a native Oregonian.
So you're from the Pacific Northwest. Right. But you've been in Connecticut for how long?
Well, let me think. I think it's about 8 years.
But I don't imagine that was as big an adjustment for you as it was for your character.
No, because I've been married for, I don't know, 250 years. No, 27 years.
Really?
And I have had 18 addresses in that time. So I've gotten to be very good at moving and adjusting to new places. But I have to say, I really have fallen in love with New England.
Last year, you participated in a holiday book.
I did, and that was the book that put me, gave me all kinds of new last names, as my agent calls it. That's the book that put me on the bestseller lists, and that was Comfort and Joy. Fern Michaels is the lead author, which I think may account for much of its success.
She's a romance author.
She is a romance author, and it was funny because I know a lot of romance authors, and I go to RW, Romance Writers of America conference, because I think romance writers are probably the most organized writers I've met. They have a good bond of unity, and they really do try to help each other, and I think that's wonderful. But I got this call from my agent and said, so they want you to do this thing, and I said, well, what is it? And she said, Christmas contemporary romance novella. And I said, I have never done any of those things. What would lead them to believe that I would? And she said, I said, well, how long do I have to write this? And I don't write fast. I am not a fast writer. And she said, 5 weeks. And I went, Once I got, my sister is the only person who gets to read anything that I write before I think it should be seen. So I came up with sort of an idea initially, and she kiboshed it. She was like, too literary, too serious, it's Christmas, will you just have some fun? So I went back and I tried to think about, all right, well, I need a problem, I need a conflict. What would be, and it needs to be Christmassy. And I thought, well, who wouldn't like Christmas? And